Well, it's a rivalry renewed. Canada versus Russia.
Can't believe we're in the semifinals already, man. Like this is nuts.
And tomorrow's the gold medal game and the bronze medal game.
Good thing we're talking about it today. Let's get into the episode. I'm Tyler Raines, along with my co-host Cameron Capobianco, and a very special guest with us, host of Home Plate, and our own Alex Fordedal. So, Alex, thank you very much for joining us today. And how are you feeling?
Hey, man. Hey, Cap. I'm doing pretty good. Really excited to talk about the World Juniors. Exciting times these next couple of days. Like you said earlier in the intro, Canada versus Russia today, and then the gold medal and bronze medal game. So it should be a pretty fun time right now.
There we go. And for those of you who don't know Alex, he's actually one of our prospect experts. Him and Cameron Reeser are always researching new stuff for us to talk about, new prospects wise, and they are actually the evil minds behind our mock drafts that we do. So he's on the show with us today. We're going to talk about some Canada-Russia rivalries, their history. We're going to go into a preview of the game tonight, and then Alex is going to talk about some players to watch between Canada and Russia. And if we have time, we'll talk about the Finland and USA prospects. So without further ado, Cameron.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the rivalry between Canada and Russia.
Oh, it's a rivalry that dates back to the age of time. Well, at least after the dinosaurs were extinct. It's make that reference.
It's an age-old rivalry.
And if you include the Soviet Union rivalry, it dates back to almost
100 years.
Longer. Yeah, like probably. I remember the first game they had against each other when this tournament started. Canada and Russia, or at the time the Soviet Union, back in 1975, battle of gold medal, between the Soviet Union and Canada. The Soviet Union came out on top. Canada finished second. Then at that time, a team that's playing today in the semifinals, Sweden, they got eliminated. Sorry, I'm behind on my stuff. It's Monday. We all hate Mondays, like Garfield, the cat.
Got a case of the Mondays.
Yeah. Sweden, who got eliminated in the quarterfinals to Finland, finished third that year.
Yeah, and that was pretty much even before then. You talk about games like the 72 Summit Series where Canada ended up winning against the Soviet Union. That was back before Russia was really Russia. They were Soviet Russia, right? And you talk about all of these different things. I mean, they've matched up how many times on the gold medal in the Olympics? They've matched up in the World Juniors numerous times in the gold medal games. You look at the Canada versus Russia series, the CHL. They used to do their Super Subway series, as it was called, where it would be like the CHL's top prospects against the Russians, right? Against Team Russia. So it really goes back quite a bit. And I mean, looking into tonight, especially Devin Levi, I think is going to be the most focused on this game because he is looking to get revenge on Russia for the U18 World Juniors. When Russia beat them.
Yeah, and actually, let's go back to a little bit more of the history. When we look back at the teams that played, the games between Canada and Russia in the gold medal game.
There are so many memorable games that we can talk about. There's one specifically in 1987. I think that you can talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that. But before I get into that, Tyler, let's talk 16 finals these guys have appeared in for the gold medal in this tournament.
That's crazy.
16 times. Which of course includes last year's game as well with
Bravo against Russia as well. How funny is that? We're going up against Russia in the semis and we beat them in the gold last time. Oh, how the tables have turned.
This is the one that everybody obviously was shocked about, was the 1987, if you were alive at the time. I know I wasn't even a thought. Alex was probably just floating around like me, and so were you. We're all just floating around in the air. Yep. 1987, the year that Finland won the gold medal without actually playing in the gold medal, and same with Czechoslovakia, because of one incident that took place in Piastany, which was, as everybody knows,
Punch up in
Piastany, where Canada and Russia got into a huge bench clearing brawl. All the players were on the ice, and they had to leave the ice after, and then the Canadian officials came in and said, "Yep, you're being stripped. Your guys aren't playing. You guys are being stripped from the gold medal. They're giving it to Finland."
Basically, it ended up being Canada technically won, but it was a disqualification. So I mean,
because of the punch up, yeah, it was because they told them to leave the ice and come back after, but there was nothing written in the rule book that said you can't do that. Yeah. So they had to leave the ice, and that's when they said, "Okay." They looked back at the rule book; they couldn't do anything about it.
It was that was a crazy game in itself, and even still, you look at the intensity of the rivalries. I mean, look at Sochi, right? 2014, Russia was hosting.
Look at the 2009, the Golden Goal.
Yeah, 2010. That
2010.
was,
sorry, excuse me.
That was
2010.
the US that was the US and Canada.
Yeah, that's my fault. Sorry, I thought that was Russia for some reason. But then you look even at the year after, Russia and Canada, 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
The one where Russia made that huge comeback late in the game to win.
Yeah. That was, oh man, the Jordan Eberle goal, as we were talking about before. Some of the defining moments in World Junior history. And I mean,
no, I just realized what I meant by the golden goal. I like to call it the golden goal. I know you're talking about 2010 with.
You're talking about the John Tavares goal.
The Eberle goal, the golden goal. That's what I call it. The World Junior golden goal. I should call it, and maybe just clarify it like that.
World Junior golden goal. Yeah, you got to. I guess we've got to start. What do we call that goal? Because I mean, if Crosby's got the golden goal, the golden goal junior.
I'd say the saving goal because it saved them from losing.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, the savior, the golden savior. I don't know. We'll figure something out. We'll leave that to people to decide. But
give some names to help us out with that. We'll put a petition on it.
Either way, it's going to be a very entertaining game, and I think looking at especially tonight, like I was mentioning, Devin Levi is going to look to get revenge. This is his first time on the World Junior Championships roster for U20 anyway. He was at the U18 World Junior Championship last year. And now this year, he's looking to get revenge on Russia for what happened previously. So, looking into that, what are we looking at for tonight? What do we expect Canada-wise, like expectation-wise for Canada? What are we looking at in terms of matchups?
Before we get into anything, actually, you just said matchups. Let's throw it to Alex because he's our prospect guy. Alex, what are some matchups tonight you can tell us about between Canada and Russia?
Let's go with the starting lineups. So, if you were to pick the starting lineups for both teams, who are you thinking are going to be on those starting lineups?
Well, when it comes to Team Canada, we might as well start off with them. I'm immediately thinking that line of McMichael with Dylan Cousins. Dylan Cousins, second in points in the entire tournament, 13 points in 5 games, just under U.S. player Trevor Zegras, Anaheim prospect. So when I think of Canada's top line, I'm immediately thinking that pair of Bowen Byram and Jamie Drysdale. And again, like I said, that line with Connor McMichael at center and Dylan Cousins on the right wing. And for Team Russia, now Russia, I'm actually when this whole time during this entire tournament. One thing that's been really surprising to me is their lack of points. And I say that because all their players are very flashy sometimes. And if you take a look back at clips or whatnot, or their statistics, they have shown high signs of being very flashy. But this time around in this tournament, instead of being flashy most of the time, they've been doing everything right. And I say that when it comes to their defensive game, their 200-foot game, their offensive game, everything they've been doing has been fundamentally right. So it's pretty interesting when I take a look at the statistics and I see Maple Leafs prospect Rodion Amirov having the most points on the team with only 6 points in 5 games. And he right there has been the top player statistically, of course, in points, and also the top left winger on that first line for Russia. So when I take a look at Russia, I automatically think of Rodion Amirov. I also think of Vasily Podkolzin. Vasily Podkolzin, another great prospect. I believe he's a prospect for the Vancouver Canucks, absolutely 10th overall pick there. He's also going to be on that first line on that right wing, I believe. The Amirov is a pure 200-foot guy. His defense is solid, and his offense is just as good. Podkolzin, to me, more of a goal scorer, has 4 points in 5 games. When it comes to defense now, again, their defense to me, the whole team overall has been doing everything very good, especially with their defense. They've been making the right plays and not really going for flashiness. For example, I forgot the name of that Swedish kid, that 6'8" kid that did the in between the legs move twice now as we're recording this. Like that right there is a pure example of going for it in a very big spotlight, and he absolutely went for it there. But
exactly, and usually the World Juniors is a way to, I guess, boost your draft stock sometimes, but if you've already drafted, it's a good way to catch NHL teams' attention. And I think some of the players are thinking that, but it's like you were mentioning with Russia. they, instead of being flashy, I mean, you saw guys like Malkin, Ovechkin, Bure over the years, Datsuk.
Yeah.
You could name numerous players who have scored highlight reel goals in the tournament. But even still, like they're focusing more on their defensive game this year. And I think that that's something they struggled with last year is their more defensive game. They were kind of like, okay, we're going to show off this year and this and that. And it ended up costing them in the end.
Absolutely. And to me, if I'm the head coach of Team Russia, I feel pretty good about that strategy, especially going into a game with the offensive powerhouse that is Team Canada that have beaten teams in the past this tournament by 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown. I say touchdowns as 7 goals. They have scored a buttload of goals and have been a pure offensive threat. So it's going to be really exciting to see guys like Daniil Chayka. He recently played with the Guelph Storm in the OHL. Guys like Shakir Mukahamadulin, who was drafted this year, I believe, to the New Jersey Devils. Yes, exactly, right? And these guys are all very good at defense. They're prime, because here's the thing, when you're playing defense, especially in this day and age of hockey, you're either offensive or two-way. I think the idea of a defensive defenseman is slowly dying out in hockey. So when I take a look at a guy like Daniil Chayka, who has put a decent amount of points in the OHL, he's 6'3", so he's a big kid, right? 6'5" on skates. He, his weight is very good. He plays a very solid physical game. And I see a guy like Shakir Mukahamadulin, who's 6'4" on skates. Again, another tall guy. He has very good offensive stats, played in the KHL this past year, but his whole entire game and role has shifted towards a very good defensive game, which he's absolutely capable of doing, which again, in my opinion, is a very good way to, it's a very good mindset to have going up against an offensive powerhouse like Team Canada, listen, their defense has been very good. It's been very solid. They've been limiting shots to an absolute minimum. Personally, when I take a look at a guy like Devin Levi, I personally haven't feel like he's really been tested that much, and that's all a credit to Team Canada's defense. So you know what? It's going to be a very interesting game, seeing how both teams complement each other. Because when you think Canada, you think of all that great offense, but at least for me this year, when I see Russia, I think of all that great defense. And listen, their forwards have been great. Like I said, Rodion Amirov, Yegor Chinnikov, Maxim Groshev, Marat Kuznetsov. All these guys have been doing things very well. And the good thing is that for their development, they've been playing in the KHL. So they've played in a much more intensive league, playing with men, playing with the greatest goalies in the world, And funny enough, one of their goalies is Yaroslav Askarov, who went to Nashville, and he, to me, has been very good. Has shown a little bit of signs of maybe sloppiness, especially when it comes to playing the puck. So, if anything, when it comes to like keys of the game, that definitely has to be Team Canada's key of the game, is to make Askarov play the puck very well. Because if he keeps getting out of his crease multiple times going for the puck, he's going to become a bit sloppy, which may go into a turnover, which is something Canada could absolutely, take advantage of. Because again, Russia's number one thing this year is defense, and the offense will come. And that's shown. It's shown with their low point totals. It's shown with the way they've been playing so conservatively in their own end. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how each team complements each other with their strategies going forward tonight.
Especially with the way that Canada has that. It's like you were mentioning, Canada's got that kind of strong offense side. And then meanwhile, Russia's got the defense. Canada has done a great job at, again, limiting shots against. But the problem is, and I will argue this, we're in a division where we're playing teams like Austria or Germany or Finland, for example. It's not really fair, right? The Canadians haven't really had their chance to go up against a team like Russia or the US or Sweden as they have in previous years. So I think this year they had it a little bit easier on that front, but I think it's going to be a little bit tough to limit shots against for Russia, especially because they're going to be pushing offense tonight. They focused on their defense most of the tournament, but now they know that they're going to be pushing offense. It's going to be back and forth. It'll be interesting to see, again, like you said, how they complement each other. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to a battle of who strikes first. That's what I think.
Absolutely. No, honestly, it absolutely does. And I would definitely like to add a comment to what you said. Absolutely. Because in comparison to the powerhouse teams like the US, Russia, or Canada, teams like Germany, Austria, right? When I think of Austria, I sadly only think of one notable player, and that's Marco Rossi, who went 10th overall this year to Minnesota, right? And he is an absolute incredible skater, but he can only do so much for his team. But that mindset I have of a team like Austria, who to me at least only has one really notable player, when I see Germany, I see a team that played really good for what they have really good for what they had, right? Because they're out of the tournament right now. Tim Stützle led the whole team in points, 10 points in 5 games, absolute incredible performance. He's now on his way. He's now in Ottawa doing his 7-day quarantine for training camp. I have high hopes he'll make the team and he'll have a very solid rookie year. They lost a lot of players.
And I mean, you think because Stützle, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, all good.
And you think like Stützle played 30 minutes a game while these players were out. And look at what he did on an international stage. Imagine what he could do in the NHL.
Points.
Imagine what he could do in the NHL.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, absolutely. And again, here's the thing with Germany. They lost a significant amount of players. They lost very notable players. The loss amount wasn't significant enough for them to withdraw from the tournament, but they still played on. Again, with Stützle, with Peterka, with Florian Ilias. I know I just butchered that name. My sincere apologies. But those guys right there, they're 3rd, 4th, and 5th in point totals in the entire tournament, and they're out of the tournament. So think about that right now. Those guys, huge impact players, and they showed why they went, where they were. Tim Stützle, I personally, in my mock draft, I had him going 2nd overall, but he went 3rd overall, fell to Ottawa, and like you said, I think he's absolutely going to make Ottawa, and he was an absolute powerhouse. And 30 minutes in my opinion, the most competitive youth tournament. It's fair to say youth. Let's call it youth. In the most competitive youth tournament in the entire world on a national stage. He did very well.
Exactly.
And again, I will say that because of the pandemic, I know for a fact Germany would, I personally think Germany would still be in the tournament because, again, they lost so many impact players. And that also goes for Sweden as well, right? And the U.S. lost Thomas Borderlow because his roommate contracted COVID, meaning he was in contact with someone who had COVID. He couldn't play. William Eklund had a COVID. For Team Sweden, William Eklund, in my opinion, he's a lock for top 10 for 2021. He just today or recently had an emergency operation done to remove his appendix. So I personally have no idea what happens to his draft stock now. I'll think about it throughout the day and throughout the coming weeks on that. But again, Canada would be facing a lot more stronger teams if not for COVID. So absolutely, like you said, especially after the nonstop beatings Canada has given these teams, with such high scoring with high scoring games, right? It's kind of boring because listen, I get Canada's good, but I just wish we could face someone who's face a country that actually has all their guys together, and that's Russia, like you said. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Canada plays against a team like Russia that is, in my opinion, a pure powerhouse during this tournament.
And I agree with that. Now, before we end it, I want to go around the room here and just get everybody's predictions. I know that it's going to be a very close game tonight. There's no question about that. I don't see it being a runaway game for Canada, like 8-1 or 7-1 like we've seen with Germany or Switzerland. But why don't we go with Cameron first? And then Alex will go with you, and then we'll go final predictions. We'll do why don't we do? I know that we haven't talked a whole lot about the U.S. and Sweden, but we'll do that prediction too. Who's gonna end up in the gold medal? Cameron, we'll start with you.
Well, like you said, Tyler, it is going to be close. I have that feeling too. It's not going to be a runaway, like you said. So with my score prediction, I'm going to say, though, it's going to be maybe a 2-goal difference for Canada. I'm going to say 4-2 on this one. And I just think it's going to be – and the reason I think that is because Russia's been coming out of the gates good in Group B. Canada is absolutely demolishing Group A. It's going to be close. But I think somebody's going to get the upper hand when it comes to that one extra goal difference.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and you never know what these goals could come. It's like we've seen in the past tournament. I don't think I've ever seen any goals that were so strange in my entire life. You look at the goal that was scored with the clock difference, right? You look at, they could come on the power play. They could go shorthanded. It's anything's possible. And I mean, as is normally in the game of hockey, but it'll be interesting to see. Now, what about your prediction for Sweden and the U.S.? Who do you think is going to come out of that one?
Well, Sweden didn't hook out another top contenders in the league, which was obviously Finland to go to the semifinals. Now, between the U.S. and Sweden, that's going to be a tough one for me because both are really good teams. Both, like, I know Alex is probably going to agree with me. Both have really great prospects going into tonight's game and for the NHL to watch. Both games are going to be having all these NHLers teams watch, whoever's been drafted. Now, for me, I'm going to say the U.S. And for a score prediction, it's, USA beat Slovakia 5-2 again, 5-2. Finland, actually, it is Finland that got knocked out. I was getting confused for a second.
I was just going to say, yeah, because Finland knocked out Sweden a while ago. It's the U.S. and Finland tonight.
Finland, yeah. I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, wait, didn't Sweden knock out, or Finland knock out Sweden? I was just going to say, I'm going on a huge thing about Sweden being in the World Juniors, and I accidentally completely forgot that they got knocked out.
You know what? You're completely right about that. I apologize. I made that error as well. Because I'm so used to Sweden being in the semifinals. It's like, it's a strange concept.
Sweden had a better team.
Yeah,
but in a close game, Leafs prospect Ronnie Hirvonen was able to make it 3-2 and win the game. So, and again, that was a good.
And Alex, remind me, how many seconds again were on that clock? 23, I believe.
24, 25.
24, 25 seconds left on that clock.
Yeah.
So between Finland and the United States, another great matchup to watch.
It's gonna be a great match.
It's gonna
be. There you go.
Matchup.
Okay, Alex, let's shift over to you for your Canada and Russia predictions, and then we'll go Finland and the U.S.
Absolutely, and I have to absolutely agree with Cap. It's going to be a close game. I personally think Canada's going to win the game 3-2 goals, and I think it's going to be in overtime. I think it's going to be in first overtime. Is there first? Yeah. Well, no, there's only one overtime. My apologies. There's only one and a shootout, right? Oh yeah, the shootouts are a thing. I forgot. That sucks. Well, anyway,
they need to make.
They really should. They really should
change the rules so it goes to just continuous overtime, like a playoff format. It's much more entertaining that way.
I was just about to say
it is much more entertaining.
Back to the playoff format.
No, absolutely. No, I agree. But yeah, I think it's going to be 3-2 and in overtime. And I think Russia's going to push Canada to that point. I think they really will. I don't see, honestly, because to me, the teams are just so, like, they're very good at their, designated spots. Again, Canada with the offense, Russia with the defense. I don't think one player is going to dominate for each team. I think it has to be a collective effort from everyone. So I think I'm calling it right now. I have a feeling there's going to be a couple tip-in goals, a couple shots from the point tipped in past the goalies, because they're going to be playing Yaroslav Askarov and we're going to be playing Devin Levi, top goalies in the entire tournament. So I have a feeling these goalies are going to turn up that extra gear to make sure that they're that good for this game. It's going to be probably the biggest games, the biggest game of their entire junior hockey career. So for Canada, Russia, I say 3-2 Canada in overtime. Now for the U.S. and Finland, I think it's not going to be a blowout. It won't be at all, because Finland has shown great perseverance and great sportsmanship in coming back in really tough situations. Example, the Finland-Sweden game, where they scored with 25 seconds left in the game to beat Sweden and to eliminate them from the whole competition. And they faced, in my opinion, another powerhouse, Victor Soderstrom, Philip Broberg, Jesper Wallstedt, top goalie available in the 2021 draft. I know he wasn't in net, but still, that team collectively, in my opinion, was a huge powerhouse all over the board. Lucas Raymond, the list goes on. So I think the U.S. will win just because the consistency of their offense has been there. Guys like Matthew Boldy has been absolutely shining, and I'm really happy for him because I always thought he was a very underrated two-way winger, and he's going to be great. He's going to be a great player for Minnesota. And then, of course, the shining star of U.S. Trevor Zegras, or as Bob Murray once said, Trevor Zegras. That's not how you pronounce it, buddy. Don't worry. But yeah, we're looking at Trevor Zegras. I think Trevor Zegras is going to get at least 2 points in this game, because when it comes to Finland's defense and the United States defense, I think it's night and day almost, because you have guys like Cam York, right? You have guys like Jake Sanderson, And I think it's going to be the difference maker. So I say the U.S.-Finland game is going to be 5-2 final for the U.S. That's what I got.
All right. Honestly, those are some good predictions. I'm going to go with mine next for Canada and Russia. Cameron, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think it's going to be a 4-2 game. Without a doubt, it's going to be tough to beat the Russians. I mean, just trying to crack Yaroslav Askarov or whoever's starting tonight. I think it's most likely going to be Askarov, I would think.
It's Askarov and Levi for sure, like Alex said, and I absolutely agree with Alex. It's going to be the top two goalies. You think semifinals, you want to go to the finals, you play the top two, you play your best goalie you got.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, like, it's not going to be a close game whatsoever. I think it's going to be very tight. There's not going to be a whole lot of penalties being thrown on either side. I think that you really need to place your bets on how well Canada plays defense and how well Russia does on their offense. So I think it's going to be Dylan Cousins scoring the game winner, and it's going to be 4-2. As for the U.S. and Finland, I'm going to go with the underdog team this time. I'm going to go with Finland because, yes, I agree with you both that the U.S. has been consistent. Trevor Zegras has been amazing. Cole Caulfield has been amazing. Their defense has been nothing but great. And Dustin Wolf especially has been great throughout the games that he's played in the tournament. However, I think that with the pressure that's on Finland, and I think especially winning the game yesterday, I feel like they're going to be motivated to take down the U.S. in a whole different way. Their goaltending isn't as strong, but I mean, keep in mind, they've got Kari Piroinen, who played for Windsor last year in the OHL. Joel Blomqvist, who's their backup. Mikko Kokkonen, Topi Niemela, right? Ville Heinola. They have guys like Brad Lambert, who is a top prospect for 2022. Matching up against guys like the U.S., it may not seem like a fair matchup. It may be tilted more in the U.S.'s side, but I feel like that drive and that motivation for Finland, they have a fair shot at taking down the U.S. I think, and I honestly think that this is going to be the final score. It's going to be 2-1 in overtime, and Finland's going to move on to the gold medal.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, and I probably sound like the biggest fool on earth, but just seeing the way that Finland played, I mean, with the exception of the game against Canada, they've been playing very well. And I mean, they found themselves. You know, I think that if you give it time and you give it effort like they did, you'll see results. And they've seen results. So if you look at it from the perspective of, okay, we just won against Finland, or we just won against Sweden. We advanced to the semifinals. We're in. We're in it to win it. It's do or die. Their backs are going to be against the wall, and they're going to want to win this. It's going to give them a new drive, new determination to win. Not to say that the U.S. won't be thinking the same thing, but I think that Finland's got the upper hand in terms of momentum going into this one.
Yeah, you're not wrong on that, Tyler. I mean, you're not wrong on that. Both games are going to be really great to watch tonight.
And either way, I think gold medal game, is it tomorrow or is it on Wednesday?
Tomorrow. It is indeed tomorrow. Yeah, both medal games are tomorrow. Yeah, they're 3 hours. Yeah, they're 3 hours apart. So the gold medal game, I believe, is going to be at 6:30 or 7.
Yes, and then the bronze medal is in the
yeah.
Now,
gentlemen, before we end the segment, before we end our episode today about the World Juniors, just remember, this is what's going to make more and more people tune into this. I'm just going to quickly tell you something. Going back to the history of obviously Canada and Russia before we end. 17 finals, I should say, it was actually how many these two played together, if you count the Soviet Union. Between those two, as Russia won 4 gold medals against Canada and 8 gold medals in total, with the other 4 coming as the Soviet Union.
That's incredible.
18 gold medals for Canada so far in total, 13 for Russia right now in total. Canada in this series has the upper hand right now if you look at those gold medals.
Yeah.
They've had the more experience with this Russian team, but who's to say that Russia will make an upset or anything? These two matchups, like I said, are going to be an amazing matchup too. They're
going to be great games to look forward to, and I'm sure that everybody who's watching at home is going to be really invested in the game, hopefully. And we'll see who comes out of tomorrow alive with the gold medal and with the bronze medal. So we'll probably recap that, hopefully. But stay tuned on our social media for the results of who wins what. So in that case, gentlemen, thank you very much for talking to us on today's episode. And we had an amazing time. It's going to be great to watch the games tonight, as we said, and it's going to be equally as fun to watch the gold medal game tomorrow to see who comes out of this championship alive and a champion. So with that being said, thank you very much for listening. If you haven't already subscribed to us on YouTube, hit that big old subscribe button. Click the like button if you want to see more content like this, and we will see you in the next one.